We have the two one that goes to so funny. The event of what they covered on one.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever they covered one time, I remember I got well, I wasn't.
Well, we'll get things underway. Welcome everyone to the 10th anniversary celebrations for the Ottawa Sports Pages. I'd like to say hello to our viewers on Facebook Live as well too. By the way, all of you who are here, you can watch it later. We can replay it as well too if you missed anything. But yeah, we've had a fun day so far. Weather turned out okay. We might have stayed outside and not rigged this all together in here had we known that it wasn't going to be 100% chance rain like the weather inside. But what can you do? Here we are, and we're so happy to have you all here. We also have some prizes to give away from Kunstad Sports. I don't know if did we collect the ballots? Of course, the idea was that we'd have the challenges going. If you tried out the sports challenges, we could give gift cards. So if any of you are holding on to your ballots, we could go and collect those for you, and we'll do a draw at the end. But yeah, Kunstad Sports was a big supporter of ours in this event. There are two $50 gift cards that we're going to be giving away. So those can be used at any of their 4 locations. They are Ottawa's tennis, bike, and ski headquarters, and your #1 location for everything winter in Ottawa-Gatineau. And they say, bring on the snow. I'm going to say, hold off on the rain, and yeah, I guess the snow will be okay once it gets here too. So I'm going to, what we're going to have today is we'll have a series of speakers. Most importantly, we've got our local Paralympians, Patrice Dagenais and Brianna Hennessy here. They gave us a little demo. Thank you. Later on, they're going to tell you more about their stories reaching the Paralympics. And earlier, they gave us a little demo how to smash each other with their wheelchairs in rugby. And if you've ever watched their sport internationally, very, very impressive to watch. So make sure to check them out in the future as well, too. First speaker that I want to bring up, and if you're involved in sport in the city, he probably needs no introduction. He's spearheaded many local sports initiatives, including building accessible baseball diamonds for players with special needs. He's involved in numerous charitable and philanthropic causes, and he's the new chair of the Ottawa Sport Council. So please welcome David Gourlay.
Thanks, Dan. That's about the best introduction I've ever had, and I actually think I need to say anything. So, look, anytime there's an opportunity to see people gather in our community through the power of sport, it's a good day, despite the rain, especially when we're here to recognize 2 incredible community leaders like Patrice and Brianna, representing not just our country, but our community in Tokyo and in future games, and incredible accomplishments that they are going to achieve. So let's give a big round of applause for Brianna and Patrice. The Ottawa Sport Council is designed for our community to really enhance the opportunities for all of us to be involved in sport, however we want to define it, recreation, leisure, whether we're going for walks in our community, whether we're involved in Little League baseball, basketball, soccer, volleyball, whatever the sport may be, we want to ensure that all of us, each and every one of us, have that opportunity. And what can we do to provide the capacity to our community to understand what sport means? Sport is good for physical literacy. Sport is good for our health, our fitness, of course, but it also builds our city together. It allows us to enjoy each other's company and our time. We have parents who volunteer with Little League organizations. We have kids and youth who are building life skills through the power of sport. That's exactly what we want to do at the Ottawa Sport Council. And one of our greatest partnerships is with Dan at the Ottawa Sports Pages. I was so incredibly inspired and impressed by the service that the Ottawa Sport Pages, Dan and his team, delivered for our entire community each and every day of the Olympics and the Paralympics, telling us not just how our athletes were doing. our local Ottawa athletes. And that is really a service that I think every single individual in this city should have been subscribing to. And I know that with great advertising, marketing, word of mouth, we need to get the word out that Ottawa Sports Pages is a major integral part of our Ottawa sport community. And that is celebrated today. 10 years, Dan. What an incredible accomplishment. 10 So well done to Dan, well done to his team, well done to all of you being out celebrating. I'm sure each and every one of you have played a role in helping Dan and his team succeed to this stage. We'll be involved as we go forward. The final note is please support the Ottawa Community Foundation partnership that Dan has now to support journalists. Journalism is a key part of our democracy. It's a key part of us being able to tell the stories and get the stories out about incredible people like Brianna and Patrice and many other para-athletes and many other athletes. Please consider a donation to this amazing cause and amazing opportunity so we can grow journalism in our community, particularly to tell those stories about sports. Thank you, Dan, for having me. Thank you again for everything that you do in our city, to you and your entire team. And thank you, everyone, for coming today.
Wow, my goodness. What a nice intro David gave me there. I did neglect, I think most of you here know me. I am the executive director for the Ottawa Sports Pages and our not-for-profit organization. Ottawa Sport Council has played a really big role in helping us get to the 10-year mark here. I'm looking forward to sharing some more details about those opportunities that you mentioned as well too on the fundraising side for journalism. Yeah, 10 years. This is the product of it, as you see here. This is the covers from each of our editions. We've always thought there was a need for recognition of high school, university, community, elite amateur sport. The mainstream media doesn't pay enough attention to them. So there was certainly a need here to do it. I'll point out a few covers for you here. Where is it? Here is Vanessa Gill. That's a name you probably didn't know back then, but there she was at age 16, playing locally, so we followed her up the ranks. Here is when she first made Team Canada. She was someone who took up the sport at when she was 15 years old and then cracked the national team a few years later. So that was an amazing story to follow. And of course, if you watch the Olympics, you know the dramatic shootout that Canada won. So now she's an Olympic champion. In the bottom corner, you might not see that on our screen at home, but that's Patrice in the main one and Brianna as well too. Between the Olympics and in advance of the Olympics and Paralympics, we always do a special edition to profile all of the athletes who are going there. So this was just before they went to Tokyo and made us proud. Now, of course, this is the newspaper. We've since grown, obviously, to do more on our website and our newsletter. And we were very proud of the daily coverage we were able to provide during the Olympics and the Paralympics to help people follow the sport and tremendous athletes like this. We've told over 6,000 stories since 2011, and it's just been amazing to see all of the passionate people who are involved in sport in this community. A lot of you are here today as well too, so we need to thank you for all your support throughout this journey. These guys gave me a lot of fuel too, being able to follow their stories. Patrice broke into the national team, I guess about the same time that the Ottawa Sports Pages began. So we got to follow him in London. Goodness gracious, one of the most exciting, hard-stopping games I've ever seen was their semifinal against USA. Hadn't beat the Americans in 8 years. And they ended up, was it 1 point in the end?
Yeah.
1 point victory, Canada won. So that was really great. there are so many passionate people involved here who I need to thank. I'd love to tell you a whole lot about each of them, but that doesn't make for great theater if you've been to these things. So I do want to underline how appreciated you all are. Charlie Pinkerton's been the editor of the Ottawa Sports Pages for about 5 years. So many late nights and early mornings. We also have Martin Cleary join us. He's been covering the local sports scene for 48 years, and he continues to report on a daily basis. I don't think our sports community can ever really say thank you enough for all of those contributions. So that's really wonderful. Thank you. Jenica Klassen as well too. She's joined us and helped us plan for this event and promote it. And all of our journalists, volunteers, partner sports groups, that's of course fundamental. Government and elected officials, the people hosting us here today, Rideau Sports Centre and the Bridge Restaurant, directors on our not-for-profit board, Ottawa Community Housing Foundation and RecLink, friends, readers, contacts in the sports community, clubs who helped put us on the sports challenges today, Ottawa Singers Wheelchair Rugby, Ottawa River Canoe Club, and Triumph Gymnastics and fencing. That was fun stuff. So everyone here and everyone watching, thank you so much. We really couldn't do it without you.
Dad?
I do have,
live on Facebook.
We'll edit it later.
I do have one more big thank you. I got to say a few words for the people who deserve the biggest thank you of all, and that's my family. Athletes sometimes talk about sacrifices to reach the top, and I think families of journalists and small business operators certainly know that as well too. So they're probably the biggest supporters that you know. Like they're in the background a little bit for this, but they're really behind so much of what we do. So thank you really from the bottom of my heart to my family, my wife Cheryl, kids Andre and Karina, my parents Paul and Vicky, and my extended family too. Thank you. We're really fortunate to celebrate today. I know a lot of the local sports clubs that we partnered with, a lot of them turned 50 this past year, and when we were all stuck at home. So I guess I'm thankful that we sort of got through this COVID thing a little bit and allowed us to gather here today. We've scratched and clawed our way to 10 years, and there's no doubt that if we're going to make it another 10 years and farther, that we're going to need more support than ever from our community. COVID's been hard on our business. It's a very difficult time for sports groups in our city. A lot of them still aren't able to access the facilities where they run their programs, and of course the media industry as a whole was going through tough times before COVID hit. But there is a bright side on the horizon, and it provides us a lot of hope for the future too. So with that, I would like to bring up Janet Adams from the Ottawa Community Foundation to make a special announcement.
So good afternoon, everyone. As Dan mentioned, I'm Janet Adams, and I'm here representing the Ottawa Community Foundation. We're a philanthropic organization that works with donors and the community to promote positive, systemic, and sustainable change. We're known for our excellent financial management, high-quality donor services, strategic grant-making, and innovative partnerships. But I'm here today, I'm very happy to be here today to share our excitement about the Journalism Endowment Matching Program. This program, established by the Ottawa Community Foundation, is a first-in-Canada pilot initiative. The aim of the Journalism Endowment Matching Program is to strengthen philanthropic support for journalism. Not only is the program a first in Canada, our partnership with the Ottawa Sports Pages and the Ottawa Community Housing Foundation is the first initiative of this program to be approved and announced. So here's how it works. The Ottawa Sports Pages fundraises donations, which are added to the Ottawa Sports Pages Fund, a permanent endowment fund at the Ottawa Community Foundation. Donations to the Permanent Endowment Fund, which are eligible for tax receipt, are invested and then generate sustainable, predictable funding for the Ottawa Sports Pages in the future. The Ottawa Community Foundation has committed to providing $5,000 in matching funds for the first $5,000 raised. This fund will help the Ottawa Sports Pages continue to be a voice for local athletes, teams, and clubs, and to continue telling their important stories. Congratulations to Dan and the whole team on the fabulous work you've done for the past 10 years. And with the establishment of this fund, we are inviting donors to contribute to ensure that these stories and this important work continues for the next 10 years and beyond.
Thank you so much, Janet, for your words and for the Ottawa Community Foundation to have created this program. It's a great opportunity for us. It's a great opportunity for other local or different that provide different voices in the media. So that's a really great opportunity. That is something that will be a giant tool for our organization. What we'd love to have you do, if you enjoy reading our stories, if you believe in what we do and are able to contribute to the cause, $10 on a monthly basis would be a really lovely thing to help us out. Well, more if you like. But that really helps us in our mission to tell the inspiring stories of local athletes, to provide equitable coverage for underrepresented groups. If you look at these covers, there's about 2/3 that are female. And that's something that you probably don't see elsewhere in sports coverage. And that's something that we're very proud of. Parasport athletes as well too, racialized athletes, LGBTQ+, and that's very important to us to give them a voice as well too, and also to help us contribute to the community through initiatives like our Camps project. We work with the Ottawa Community Housing Foundation, who supported us in this application. And we, through our advertising partners at the Ottawa Sports Pages, we ask for free registrations in their program. We give those to kids in Ottawa community housing communities. So that is also something that we'd like to grow in the future too. So that'll be a long way towards helping us in our sustainability for the next 10 years and beyond. So if you'd like to do that, we have a webpage set up now, ottawasportspages.ca/donate. You can go there and do the work required. Thank you very much. Already, we have some other exciting news to share. We need the drum roll here. I'm very pleased to announce that we've received our first $1,000 donation to the Ottawa Sports Pages Fund. The donor wished to remain anonymous, but I'll share with you that it came from the parents of one of the most dedicated athletes and families that I've got to cover. They provided me with a few words to share about what motivated them to contribute, so I'll read that to you now. The Ottawa Sports Pages' commitment to getting the stories of amateur athletes told has always been striking. Taking the time to get to know the ins and outs of a deep variety of sports and people are in the paper's DNA, leading to excellent coverage of sports and inspirational people in our community, which receive little to no coverage elsewhere. There's a big impact of bringing wider awareness to school sports and athletics, smaller clubs, sports outside the general mainstream awareness, and sporting opportunities for all on a consistent basis in a free and easily accessible format. This can be measured in knowledge recognition, engagement, participation, enthusiasm, volunteerism, and I hope in donations from all Ottawans interested in the positive impact sports involvement can have on our community. We encourage you to join us in supporting the Ottawa Sports Pages with a donation now to help them continue the good work of helping and supporting healthy sporting opportunities in Ottawa. So that was some very kind words. I'd like to say thank you to our angel donor. You are indeed exactly that. As I mentioned, next we're going to bring up Patrice and Brianna to tell us a bit about their journeys. One of the great stories I've got to cover, and certainly we want to keep telling some more like these. So that's we'll get to hear a little bit about their journeys now. Patrice and Brianna both represented Canada at the Tokyo Paralympics. We wanted to have them both here because their paths are a little bit intertwined. Patrice introduced Brianna to parasport in the first place, and I believe also suggested, why don't you try paddling? And that turned out all right for her once COVID hit. So we'll have Patrice go first. I'll give you a little more of his bio from the handy hockey cards that you all received as well here. So, Patrice was the captain of the Embrun École Secondaire Catholique hockey team as a teenager. Won 3 consecutive high school league titles with the Embrun Cyclones. He was a junior hockey player for Les Aigles de Saint-Isidore. And then at age 18, he had a construction accident that caused a severe spinal cord injury. A year and a half later, took up wheelchair rugby, fell in love with a sport that allowed him to hit and score goals like hockey. First cracked the Team Canada lineup in 2019 at age 24. Placed 5th at his first World Championships the following year. Made his Paralympic debut, London 2012. I mentioned that earlier. Amazing match, and helped Canada beat USA for the first time in 8 years in the semifinal. Toronto 2015, Parapan Am Games champion. 4th at the Rio 2016 Paralympic Games. 5th at Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games. That's 3 appearances now at the Paralympic Games. He is the co-captain of the Canadian wheelchair rugby team, the president of the Ottawa Singers wheelchair rugby club locally, and he gives back to the community as a motivational speaker at schools and rehabilitation centers. We're going to give you now the story behind all of that. So
I don't know what else to say now. Thanks, Dan. Really happy to be here today with you guys. Ottawa Sports Pages has always been a great supporter of mine in my career. Actually, started made the top 12 for wheelchair rugby in 2011, so basically the same time as the newspaper started. I can see myself in some of these covers, so kind of makes me feel a bit like a celebrity, and pretty exciting. And I want to thank Dan and your group for promoting parasports in Ottawa. And, it's important for my friends and families to be able to follow my journey, and they can do that on your website or reading your newspaper. So thanks again for having me. I'm going to center myself for Facebook Live.
Told you he was a pro.
So yes, my name is Patrice, nicknamed Pico. So you can also call me Pico. A lot of people do. I grew up in Marionville, which is a very small town, about half an hour east of here, and like I said, maybe 300, 400 people. It's very small. And what I like to do most as a kid was play sports. I mean, sports has always been a huge passion of mine. My brother's also involved in sports. He's actually in his first year as an assistant coach for Ottawa 67. So we really love all kinds of sports. And as kids, we would always watch the Olympics. It was something we would do every second year, whether it was the Winter or Summer Olympics, and even make our own Olympics at home. We had a pool, we had an empty field next to our house, we had boxing gloves, we had anything we needed to compete and see who was the best athlete in all the sports. So it was always something that we enjoyed doing. I started playing hockey at the age of 5, so hockey as a kid was my favorite sport. Like most kids at that age, I always dreamed of maybe making it to the NHL, play for Montreal Canadiens. So yeah, hockey was my favorite sport. And same with the Olympics. I mean, at that age, maybe it wasn't really realistic for me to make the Olympics one day, but we were following it, and we were idolizing those athletes that were on TV and cheering for our country. Still do the same. I'm 37 now, just turned 37, and this summer I was watching the Olympics, and I was still as passionate as I was as a kid. Like you mentioned, the soccer game, watching the women win in the penalty kicks. That was emotional and pretty crazy game. So yeah, it's always been a great big part of my life. I went to high school in Embrun, where I continued to play sports, and after high school I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do as a grown-up. I didn't have that many other interests besides sports, but it wasn't really at that time realistic for me to think that I'll be a professional athlete. So I was working for my dad the summer of 2003. We were building residential houses, and that morning it was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was working on the second story of the house, and there was a hole where the stairs were going to be installed, and I fell in the hole. I misjudged the shape of it, took a step forward, fell in the hole, and then I landed in the basement. So I fell 2 stories, landed on my back, my head hit the floor, and I fractured the 6th vertebrae in my neck and damaged my spinal cord. So at that point, I was on the floor. It was scary. My head was obviously, I was bleeding, so I couldn't move much. I could move my arms a little bit. Didn't really know what to expect. Telling myself, I guess at that point, well, it's kind of normal. You just, fell 2 stories. It's that your body's not responding, but I didn't really know I'd be paralyzed. Like I didn't know that, what was the extent of it. So luckily, I wasn't by myself. There was other people there, so they called the ambulance. They picked me up by helicopter, so I got a free helicopter ride, I guess, but it wasn't the most enjoyable ride. They brought me to the Civic Hospital where they did some tests. That was a long day. I remember a bit of it, but it was a long day. CAT scans, MRIs, X-rays to see what the damage was, and that's when they told my parents and eventually me that there's a high chance that I'd be paralyzed for the rest of my life because my spinal cord was badly damaged. At that point, I didn't really know what to expect. In my mind, it's like, I'm an athlete. I'll be able to get over this and recover and walk again. But I guess science, science is pretty powerful, and the fact that my spinal cord was damaged, there wasn't really much hope. It wasn't completely cut, the spinal cord, so there was a bit of a chance. I had sensation in my legs. So like, maybe I'll do what I can. So I didn't I didn't quit, that's for sure. After 4 days, I actually finally got my surgery. Since my vertebrae was broken into pieces, they took a piece of a bone from my hip and moved it, replaced it in my neck with a couple screws and a plate, metal plate. So they did actually a really good surgery. So I spent a month at a civic hospital where it was definitely very difficult, not only physically but emotionally too. I was 18 years old. At that point in life, I was driving, I was playing sports. I just moved in with my brother 2 weeks prior in the duplex, so I was really independent, doing a lot of things on my own, and because of an accident like that, in a matter of a second, I lost all that being able to be independent. So I was depending on everyone, whether it was just to eat breakfast. I had people, my family was there to help me feed me. So it was difficult. Lost a lot of weight, lost a lot of muscles. So it was a tough time, but I was staying positive because I still had hope that I would regain some function and walk again and play hockey again. So I was still fighting and trying to stay positive. Was really lucky to have a great family and great friends that would visit me all the time. So that was really important. So after that first month, I was transferred to the rehab center in Ottawa next to the general hospital, where I continued to do some work, trying to get some function back, but also kind of realizing that I might be in a chair for a long time, for the rest of my life. So learning how to live as a quadriplegic. So it's kind of like a 3 or 4 year old that's learning to do things by himself, putting his shoes on, or riding, or everything that you do at that age. I do it again at the age of 18, putting my shoes on, putting my pants on, transferring from a bed to a chair, going from a laying down position to a sitting position because I lost all the function in my core. It was very challenging. So me as a quadriplegic, I have some function in my arm. So my shoulders are pretty strong, so are my biceps, but I have weak triceps. I have zero movement in my right hand. And I have a bit of movement in my left. I can move my thumb. It's not much, but I do have a little bit of a pinch that can tell me bad things. So I do not take it for granted. I have a pinky that moves a little bit. Doesn't help me with much. Maybe grab my keys once in a while, but that's pretty much it. And I'm paralyzed from the chest down. So I don't know, 70% of my body is paralyzed since that day. So it has been challenging. So after about a year, about 5 months after I was transferred, I was able to go back home. Continued to do some physio, but after a year and a half, like I wasn't improving anymore. I wasn't really getting any function in my body, so I kind of had to accept the fact that I'd be in a chair, that I couldn't go back to playing hockey, that I had to find new passions. That's when I started driving again, so at least I was a bit more independent. Getting my driver's license, so I have an adapted minivan, I guess now. I'm at 5. I drive with my hands. I control the steering wheel with my right hand, and then the gas and the brake is with my left hand. To push forward is the brake, and to pull down is the gas. And I've been driving for, I don't know, maybe 16 years now, and no accidents. So if you see me on the road, don't be afraid. I'm a pretty good driver. I have a pretty good record for that. So that allowed me to do more things with my friends and get around. Also went back to school because I did a year of college after high school at L'Institut collégial or L'Institut now in Ottawa in computer technology prior to my accident. But I kind of wanted to switch after, so I went back part-time in a marketing course, and I eventually completed a 3-year program at L'Institut. It took me 6 years to do it, but I'm still happy I did finish it, just because I was taking it part-time, because I was, at first especially, I was still kind of weak, still kind of like, okay, am I going to be able to transfer in the winter and push up to the door and open the door? Everything was a challenge back then. So, that's why I was taking part-time classes at L'Institut. So with all of that, I also started playing the sport of wheelchair rugby in 2005. I heard about the sport before at the rehab center. The team would practice there when I was at the rehab, but at that point I wasn't interested in getting involved in a parasport, because in my mind I wanted to walk again, so I didn't give it a try when I was at the rehab. But there's a movie that came out in 2005 called Murder Ball, and I don't know if you've seen it, but if you haven't, it's actually a really good documentary. And that's when I saw that it was a Paralympic sport, which rugby was a Paralympic sport. It was full contact, pretty badass. Like, okay, reminds me of hockey. They're hitting, it's fast, and there's a lot of speed in the game. So I'm gonna give it a try. And I started in Ottawa. The rehab center was my first practice, and I fell in love with it. Being able to meet other people that went through the same challenges as me, so other quadriplegics, that also saw that there was a lot of hope in life, that some of those guys had families, some were they were Olympic athletes, some had jobs. So it was eye-opening, and it was good emotionally to meet those people. And as far as I'm gonna have to hurry up a bit here. As far as playing a new sport, I was able to adapt pretty quick, because I played so many sports in my life before. So I had those abilities that I had developed as a kid. So I really enjoyed playing in competition, something that I really missed. It'd been almost 2 years since I've actually competed. So it was fun to start playing a sport again. And since I knew it was a Paralympic sport, I gave myself a goal that one day I would go to the Paralympics and represent my country. So I'm going to do what I need to do to get to that point. So I started training and going to practices. At first, I was still dependent on my family, so my parents would come to practices with me to help me transfer my chair, put my gloves on, because I was fairly new after my injury. But eventually, after meeting some guys that had the same limitations as me, I was like, okay, well, if they can do it, I can certainly do it. So that it kind of got a little bit of a kick in the butt. So I became independent because of the sport, learning from those other people, and was fortunate enough to travel the world. So it's been a great journey. And like Dan mentioned, my first Paralympic Games were in 2012. So I was really happy to make that team, because in 2010 Vancouver was hosting the World Championship, and we can only take 12 players to the Paralympic Games and World Championships. And I was selected to 13 players, so it was a big disappointment for me at that point. So I just, I increased the volume of work and made some better decisions off the core when it comes to nutrition and things like that, and eventually made the Paralympic teams in London that represented Canada in London, which was the best experience of my life, starting with my teammate Garrett Hickling, who was at his 5th Paralympian. He was the flag bearer for Team Canada, so we were the first group of athletes representing our country in a stadium of 70-something thousand people, with the Team Canada jacket on, with a big smile on my face, just realizing that this is a dream that I've had as a kid, to represent my country and play the highest level of a sport, and I was doing that, because of my injury, but at the same time, I did put the work in to get to that point. So I was really happy, and we ended up winning a silver medal after beating the United States in a close semifinal games where they were expected to win the tournament, and we surprised them, and we scored with 0.5 seconds left to win that game. I had tears in my eyes. I was so emotional, so happy to beat them. They're Americans, right? And just like in front of 12,000 people, it was sharing this with teammates. It's just a great moment, and knowing that you bring back a medal home to show your friends and family is also pretty cool. Especially like when you go to your games, like, yeah, we'll have fun, enjoy the experience. We'll bring us back a medal. Yeah, it's not that easy. Do my best, but it was cool that I had a really nice experience. And then kept playing rugby, like 2015 Toronto Parapan gold medal. That was another awesome moment because we were playing in Toronto in front of our fans. We won a medal, and I always, when I was watching the Olympics or even the World Juniors in hockey, it was awesome to see the athletes sing "O Canada" with their arms around their teammates, and we were able to do that in Toronto. So that was another great moment. 2016, 4th place in Rio. Unfortunately, we came short by 2 points in the bronze medal game. A little frustrating, but as sports, it is what it is. And then recently in Tokyo, the games were definitely a little different this year. I mean, so very, very well organized. The Japanese people did a great job doing that. The village was beautiful, great food. Volunteers were great. The only slight difference, there's no people in the crowd, so the energy level is definitely not the same as it was before. But still really happy and fortunate that it did happen. They weren't canceled. So we did finish 5th place. We would have liked to do a little bit better, but the world is getting better in the sport of wheelchair rugby, so it's that much tougher now to win a medal. So I have to cut it short now, I think. I just talked a lot, but right now my plan is to probably do another one. So I'm probably gonna be competing in Paris in 3 years. Since it's only 3 years, I might as well do it. Before I hit 40, I still have a bit of time.
What's wrong with 40?
It's great.
Your teammates, at least one of them is more than 40.
Oh yeah. We have the oldest athlete on our team. I think is 44 right now. So I could go on after too if I wanted to. But right now we'll go one at a time. No. So the next few years there'll be some other competitions. Next year's the World Championships for sport. So we'll get ready for that, and I'm hoping things go well, and I'll be able to represent our country again in Paris. So thanks for having me. We'll have some time after for some questions that you guys have.
All right, beautiful. That's thanks so much, Patrice. You've taught me a great lesson. Often, when we do interviews for the newspaper, I've got all my questions prepared. Next time, I think I'll just ask. So what's new? Go, tell me. that was awesome. You told your whole story, and yeah, my goodness, what a great public speaker on top of it.
I have a big experience, I guess. Yeah. Thank you, though. I appreciate it.
Awesome, that's great. Next, I'm going to introduce to you Brianna Hennessy, and again, I'm going to reference my nominal character here. Brianna was also quite the athlete as a teenager. Ontario Winter Games, AA hockey gold medalist, provincial level rugby player, and Eastern Canadian champion, Ontario amateur boxing champion, Canadian ball hockey champion. At age 30, she was struck by a taxi cab, and that left her tetraplegic. She credits sports for teaching her the resilience required in rehabilitation. Became Team Ontario wheelchair rugby player shortly after that, joined Patrice's sport. And she was the lone Canadian woman to compete in the U.S. Quad Rugby Association for the Tampa Bay Generals. Took up paddling with the Ottawa River Canoe Club several months into COVID. Placed fourth at the women's VL2 200 meters at the ICF Paracanoe World Cup in Hungary, and that helped her become the first Canadian woman to qualify for the Paralympics in Paracanoe. 1 year after taking up the sport, she reached the Paralympic finals in both of her events, 8th place overall in the KL1 kayak single 200 meters, 5th place overall in the VL2 single 200 meters, just over 1 second away from the podium, less than a year after taking up the sport. We're happy to have her, and we'll hear some more about that journey. Thanks so much, Brianna.
So thank you for having me. From my accident and my brain injury, I have a little bit of difficulty with my memory, so I'm going to read my story today just so I don't miss any integral parts of it, if that's okay. So I'm Brianna Hennessy, and I'm now a Paralympian since Tokyo in both para-canoe and para-kayaking. As I mentioned, my events are a 200-meter sprint that lasts around 1 minute. This event demands an extreme amount of endurance training, technique, and precision that all have to come together in a perfect synergy moment on the water. An event that is won or lost in merely the fractions of a second. There's little room for error, such as putting your blade in the water just 0.5 seconds too late off the start, and it can take you out of the running. I just want to thank Ottawa Sports Pages and Dan, of course, for organizing this wonderful event. But above all, I truly want to thank you for including and showcasing para-athletes. We are absolutely honored for this opportunity to spread more awareness of athletes with disabilities. Also, of course, giving us a chance to perhaps inspire others who are trying to overcome any adversity in life. The superpower of sport builds and brings families and communities closer together. People of all sorts of shapes, sizes, ages, and abilities. There are so many exciting opportunities right here in Ottawa for anyone and everyone that can get out and enjoy. So a special thank you to the Ottawa Sports Pages for leading this movement of inclusion for all. Today, I've been asked to share my survival story with you. I may get a little bit emotional along the way, as I usually do, so I apologize in advance. I was born and raised in Ottawa. I grew up as an elite athlete, as Dan mentioned, so I'll skip that part and go over it. Almost 7 years ago, my life changed entirely when I was in Toronto for work, and I was struck by a speeding cab driver as a pedestrian crossing the street. My parents like to believe that the only reason that I'm still here today is because of my contact sports and quick reflexes. This allowed me to throw myself onto the hood of the car and brace myself instead of simply sticking my arms out and being run over by the vehicle and dragged underneath it. My skull smashed into the windshield and cracked it. My body then went flying in the opposite direction over 20 feet and hitting the pavement unconscious. I woke up in the hospital paralyzed from my neck down. I felt trapped in my own body. I was in a full state of panic and completely terrified. The emergency doctor came in and told me that I had broken my neck in multiple places, my C1 and C2. I remember the only thing that I could feel was the tears rolling down my face. This had to have been a nightmare, I remember thinking to myself. If that wasn't bad enough, I found out later The doctor didn't even catch it right away that I'd also severed one of the main arteries to my brain. This meant that I could have a stroke at any minute, that any moment could be my last. I remember turning to my dad and telling him that I wanted to pull the plug. Quickly replied, "No, don't you dare give up on me. Hennessy's are fighters, and we're going to get through this." I had my nurse write a saying on my hospital wall that you only know how strong you are when it's your only choice. Well, I had to make a choice that day. I had to decide if I was going to stop feeling sorry for myself and if I was worth it, that my life was worth fighting for, that not all was lost no matter how hard that was to honestly see in that very moment. If I could go back and give myself advice now, it would be to remember that things always seem the hardest right before they get easier. Perspective is everything when you are facing the greatest challenges in your life. This reminds me of a story of one of my para-athlete friends in the USA. He's a war veteran that had both of his legs blown off by a grenade in Afghanistan. So he is now a double leg amputee. He had an able-bodied friend that used to train with him at the gym. One day his buddy called him up saying that he had torn his Achilles tendon, so he needed to take quite a lot of time off from training. From his friend's point of view, he was devastated. He could hardly walk, and all he could hyper-focus on was how it would set him back in everything he'd worked so hard for. My amputee friend paused. I could only imagine the grin on his face when he replied, "Buddy, I don't even have Achilles tendons. But I have the rest of my body that I can work out." I found this quote that reads, "When the winds of change blow, some people build walls and others build windmills. It's all about changing your perspective." Sometimes we can all get so caught up in what we don't have or what we've lost that we overlook and take for granted what we do have. You see, it didn't matter what the catastrophic changes were to my body because no disability can break or take away your human spirit. I realized that I had the same heart, the same fight of the Irish blood running thick through my veins, and the same cheesy, silly sense of humor. Most of all, even in those dark moments when my able-bodied sports had been torn away from me, I realized that their values still resonated deep down in my core. Sport can be an incredible teacher of so many strong character traits, all of which can be applied to all aspects of life. Sport teaches us teamwork, self-confidence, drive, dedication, hard work ethic, and most of all, in my case, tenacity and resilience when things get tough. Sport is a way of life. For me, the biggest part of my purpose and identity since I was a young child. I had incredible role models growing up on the side of a football field. Parents that show by example that it was still important to stick to your driving forces and positive outlets in life, even if you had children. Teaching me from an early age that the world didn't revolve around my brother and I just because we were kids. That in a family unit, it's all about sharing and caring. That we all have an important job to support one another in these endeavors. Both my parents who are here today are my superheroes. They both played national level football for over a decade each, and I have always looked up to them and feel the highest in my life when I can make them proud. My dad was still quarterbacking against 20, 30-year-olds in his 60s. That man has literally torn thumbs off palms of hands by throwing his tight spirals at his own teammates. I've seen it happen in person and it's superhuman. Then there's my mom who, after playing football, started able-bodied rugby with me when she was 43 years old, tackling and sprinting and crushing university players like there were blades of grass under her cleats. With this realization in mind and newfound twinkle in my eye, I had remembered hearing about this para-sport called wheelchair rugby. The Ottawa Stingers club team actually practiced in the gym at the Ottawa Rehab Centre where I was doing my rehab. So one day I went down to watch in the gym. This is the first time I met Pico, who is now my teammate and my coach. I was so inspired by these para-athletes with all sorts of disabilities, tearing it up in the gym floor in these crazy battle chairs, hitting each other at full speed with these huge smiles on their faces. I couldn't believe it. How could someone facing so many challenges every single day of their life have no fear in the world but to put themselves out there like this? I was blown away. In these moments for me, these incredible para-athletes were literally defining a quote for me to always look for strength in your struggles. The team welcomed me with open arms, and From the first time I sat in a rugby wheelchair, I immediately was hooked. Little did poor Pico know that he would be stuck with me on my loud cackle laugh for the rest of his sporting career. But in all seriousness, what Pico doesn't know is how he saved me that very day. He saved me by bringing purpose back in my life. A white knight hidden right here amongst us that shared his shield with me of strength and protection. By giving me a new path and being patient enough to guide me along every step of the way, he opened the door for me to start building some self-confidence back after my accident. Most of all, he showed me that parasport could reintegrate me back into a community of people that gave me a sense of belonging and normalcy again. It soon became the biggest part of my ongoing therapy and recovery. So thank you, Pico. You're truly one of the few altruistic and inspirational human beings that I know. You're a phenomenal coach, a dependable friend, and a great motivational leader. From the club level, I worked hard to go on to play at the provincial Ontario level. Wheelchair rugby is a male-dominated sport where approximately 96% of the athletes are male. Only 4% of women play in the men's league. There is no women's league. Before COVID hit, I was the only female in Canada to be imported on a U.S. team playing Div 1 for the Tampa Bay Generals. I am proud to say that I have been imported again this season and that we just started back up to play. Our team is ranked 4th in the entire U.S. out of 44 teams in the entire league. Unfortunately, when COVID hit, all team sports were canceled. In April 2020, it was going to be my first time in my sporting career that I was going to play nationals in 2 different countries, in both Canada and the U.S. When this rug was pulled out from underneath me too, I was devastated. I feared that I would lose myself all over again. Until one day out of the blue, I received an email, funny enough from Pico, actually, asking me if I wanted to try para-kayaking. Now, to be clear, I have never done a water sport in my entire life. Most importantly, I didn't even know if I could swim since my accident, so this made me a little bit scared. But I said, okay, why not give it a try? I need to keep up with my active recovery and therapy, and I'm always up for a new challenge. So I built up the courage, went and bought a life jacket, and was dropped off on the doorstep of the Ottawa River Canoe Club, like a lost puppy in a basket. Now take note of this time frame. This was only August last year. This is where I met my second para coach, Joel Hazan, who's here with us today. We tell this part of our story quite often, and it never seems to lose its charm. I remember going out my first time with him on the river in what he called a wide, stable bathtub kayak boat. He is a very transparent person and will always tell you like it is. This is why we get along so well, because I'm the same way. And I remember him saying, I'll tell you the truth if I think you have any potential. I replied, that sounds fair to me. I don't want to waste my time either. Then he asked me what my goals were. I said, well, I've been an elite athlete my entire life, and all that was torn away from me when I had my catastrophic car accident. If you ask me honestly, it would be a dream come true to go to the Paralympics. I distinctly remember Coach's reaction on his face in that moment, as he tried to camouflage a chuckle that was trying to escape under his breath, failing to hide the humor and ridiculousness he found in my unrealistic response. His crow's feet on both eyes took off in full flight. He quickly responded in a cheeky tone, well, I don't do miracles.
Good motivation.
Now, to be clear, let me explain what I was really asking of Joel as a coach in those moments. And let's read a little bit between the lines. Coach, can you teach me a brand new sport in just 8 months from August 2020, leading up to the national trials in March in Vancouver, where I need to qualify for the World Cup? Coach, can you train me and prepare me so in my very first kayak race ever at national trials, I can qualify a time good enough to place me top 8 in the entire world? This way, Team Canada will take me to the World Cup in Hungary in Europe only 2 months later in May, so 10 months into my training. But not just that, Coach. At the World Cup, which is the last Paralympic qualifier for Tokyo, I'd like to lock in a spot there too. And to simplify things even more, can you please hurry up and learn my disabilities, as I can't hold the paddle with my hands on my own, and my legs and core don't work very well either. Then can you put a team together that is innovative enough to come up with a completely new accessibility seat, equipment modifications, and paddle to suit my custom needs? Oh, and can you also have it handmade in carbon fiber? And lastly, just because you are so good at what you do, there will be a delightful surprise before World Cup in Hungary from the national para coach. He will give you a very special quest. It will be to teach me how to go straight in a canoe, sitting in one for the first time only 5 weeks before the World Cup. What I can say is that we got to work. We trained as much as my health would allow. I fell out of the boat many times, and I'm still falling out of my boat to this day. But it doesn't matter if you fall down 7 times, as long as you get up 8. Or wait, I think I have the saying wrong. Let me try this again. I meant it doesn't matter if you fall out of your boat 7 times, as long as your coach decides to rescue you 8 times back into the safety boat by pulling your drenched body over the side. Yeah, that's right. And as for the swimming part, well, I quickly found out with my life jacket keeping me afloat, let's just say I'm more of an orchard apple bobbing around the water. Maybe this could be a new parasport. So step by step, we accomplished all of our goals above. At World Cup, we were able to qualify in both para-canoe and kayak. I couldn't believe it. We were going to Tokyo Paralympics. I was beside myself. It is just as surreal now as it was when we were competing at the Games. My experience at the Games was very overwhelming, exhilarating, stressful, exciting, like being in a high-pressure cooker, and as well as a thrilling experience. But having the honor to represent my country and come together with all those with disabilities, each crafting their own unique survival story, all unified in our determination and strength on the world stage, made it all worthwhile. Reaching the Paralympics was one of the greatest highlights of my life. And of course, there was deking out the gates of heaven by surviving my traumatic car accident. We went on to get through the heats and semifinals, making it to the finals in both sports, placing 5th overall in canoe and 8th in kayak, amongst paddlers that have been at this for minimum 5 to 10 years. I am the rookie on the block and still have so much more to learn and give to these sports. I am also very proud to say, as Dan mentioned, that I'm the first Canadian woman to ever have qualified for para-canoe at the Games. But now my competitors know that there is a new Canadian coming up quickly in the shadows, an underdog that they should not underestimate in Paris 2024. What our team accomplished in just over a year, just think about what we're capable of in 3 more. I am also so thrilled and proud to announce that my coach Joel received a well-deserved Coach's Excellence Award of Ontario when we arrived back from Tokyo. And if I recall correctly, I believe the award category was, oh, as a matter of fact, I do miracles. Joel gives everything to his athletes, and by doing so, he has relit the fire in my heart to fuel my competitive spirit, reviving a part of my soul that I thought with my accident had been smothered forever. Joel believed in me and has given me strength through all the times that I doubted myself. It reminds me of a quote, a good coach can change a game, a great coach can change a life. I can't thank you enough, I'm forever grateful. But in sport, we all know that the athlete is only the face of the production. It is important to recognize and celebrate the entire village it takes to propel an athlete to the world stage of international competition. In my case, a very special paddle family at the ORCC, supportive friends, and my family all making sacrifices to make a dream like this come true for just one para-athlete. Through our common passion for sport, there can be a true sense of camaraderie within a team. A recipe made up of 3 key ingredients that can forge powerful human bonds made of steel. A dump truck filled with love for helping others in the pursuit of the excellence of sport, adding a healthy dash of hope in moments of despair, and lastly, a full boatload of newfound friendships that will last a lifetime. To mention a few names, the founder of our club, Bevan Smiths, who is also my assistant coach, who teaches me all the secret magic tricks in the boat that saved me in one of my races when I almost left the lane. Our co-founder of the club, LA, who was an integral part of having canoeing accepted for women for the very first time ever at the Olympics for able bodies and Paralympians this year in Tokyo. Justin Rancourt, also my other assistant coach, and of course all the paddle kids for pushing me every step of the way. And last but not least, my number one fan. Joel's 9-year-old daughter, Olivia. She has a heart of gold, is a smarty pants, and is going to be a phenomenal athlete in whatever sport she chooses to pursue. I'm so proud to say that she is my good luck charm on my team and my bright beacon of positivity. But what's truly amazing to me is that by believing in myself again and going after my dreams, I have inspired a kid very dear to my heart. What is truly precious about all this is that at that age, Liv has already not only learned about someone in a wheelchair, but already sees me for the person I am, looking right past my disabilities. A fully able-bodied kid sees me as a role model and a strong female presence in her life. It speaks volumes when we have a special language that we can use to communicate to our youth in a way that they can actually understand. This, to me, truly encompasses the true meaning of the power of sport. It would be amazing to win a medal in Paris, but it's these connections that we make along our journey through sport that we will cherish forever and are the most impactful. Sport unifies us in the most unexpected ways and during the most unprecedented times. This brings me to my last thought. If I can leave you with a quote that truly encapsulates my survival story. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass, no matter how treacherous it may seem. It's about learning how to dance in the rain, which I figured would be somewhat fitting for today. We're inside. I hope that my story has inspired you to either start something new or take back up something that you've always loved. We're always looking to grow our family at the Ottawa River Canoe Club, where we have a program for everyone, from masters to kids in rec and competitive, amazing outdoor kids camps, our special needs programs, as well as being one of the few paddle clubs that actually offers a para program. Alternatively, I'd love your support on our pathway to Paris by joining us on our social media or Instagram. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay active, and most of all, stay young at heart. Thanks for that.
Thank you so much, both of you. Sure, yeah, we didn't work on the stage. But my goodness, like what a story. I think the headline is miraculous for sure. I've heard your cackle at practice too, and the woman beside me is very bright, and thank you for sharing the deeply personal parts of your story too. Goodness gracious. Are
you hiring at the?
I was going to say, good Lord, we've been off stage here. Joel's daughter too. I was very impressed. I got a scoop for the next story. You should have seen this girl going around on the rugby wheelchairs. It was pretty special. God, thanks so much, guys, for sharing your stories like this. It continues to inspire us to tell these stories like this as well too. The one last piece of business here, and this is a little bit off script, but I'll tell you guys about it. We have here the Member of Parliament for Ottawa-Vanier, and in my experience, politicians sometimes like to come in and do the photo op and then on to the next one. That was off script, sorry. Mona came out when it was pouring rain this morning. Came out and enjoyed the outdoor portion of our event, and came in here as well. So we had done a presentation earlier outside where we gave Brianna and Patrice framed copies of the last articles we did on there. I don't know if they're still around, but regardless, I'd like to call Mona up. Maybe if you could say a few words again.
Well, I'm in tears. I don't know if you are too. Thank you very much, Dan, and congratulations on making this possible today. And giving us an opportunity to learn from two extremely incredible individuals. Thank you for your resilience, your courage, your perseverance, and the fact that you do have a lot of humor also. So that is really good. And honestly, I can't wait to get back to my family and share with my kids who love sports to actually look at this again, because it's on, right? We can watch it again and again, and see how two extremely important individuals we have here today have shared their story. So thank you so much. Merci beaucoup d'avoir fait ça. C'est quelque chose qui, je pense qu'on peut tout apprendre à voir comment on peut travailler fort quand il y a une tempête. And like you said, you went through a lot, Brianna, but honestly, look at where you are today. And it might be not sunny outside, but it's really sunny in here.
Oh.
So. And of course, Patrice, you're incredible, and we've been following you. And I remember now when I worked at La Cité, you were there as a student.
Okay.
So now I know where you came from, and I'm sure that you're going to continue to succeed and represent us really well. So merci beaucoup, and I'm really glad to be here today.
All right, that is pretty much a wrap. Huge thank you again, Patrice and Brianna, for sharing their stories. Follow them on social media. Rideau Hennessy on Instagram. Patrice, do you have anything? Okay, wow.
It's time, Mark. Come on.
Luckily, we have
Ottawa
Ottawa
Sports
Sports
Page.
Pages.
Articles are all in there.
And we will continue to share stories like that for a long time. Again, if you'd like to support that to help make it possible, ottawasportspages.ca/donate to help us in the next chapter of our story. Thank you again, everyone who made today possible. You are all the best. We'll end the broadcast. Thank you, God.